Kelly, it's so good to see you again
Good
today.
to see
Oh
you
my
again,
gosh,
too.
I love getting together with you every week, and I love it when we bring guests in here.
I do too.
Oh, I can't wait. So introduce your guest today for us.
All right. Well, today our guest is Cassie Hampton, and Cassie and I have known each other for about a year now, and been working out together. And just again, as usual, I get to share some very interesting stories with people I've met.
I've noticed though, it's the pretty girls.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of guys too. I got to talk them into coming in with
You've
me.
got some of the prettiest girls that work out with
Well,
you. My goodness.
Yeah.
So tell us. So you're going to tell a little bit about her background.
Well, I mean, I think it'd probably be better if you tell your background, but just, I think that one thing, we all have struggles in life, and Cassie and I were talking about things that we love, and we love crime stories, and that's kind of how it started. And, it's another thing is I find it interesting that I have met a lot of like fascinating people that are very, very successful. And once you start to get to know them, it's really just amazing, what people's lives are like and what they've sometimes had to overcome. And they're just haven't had things handed to them. And, and in spite of things that have happened, how they're such positive, good people giving back to the community. And that's what I really found very fascinating and something I'm drawn to people like that are giving back and in spite of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Will
Cassie.
you tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Yeah, well, Kelly makes it a lot easier to kind of open up and talk about those things, which, I don't necessarily consider my childhood horrible. I think I was raised by good parents and, obviously I had some goodness come from somewhere, right? But, sometimes things just don't always go our way. And, Kelly and I like talking about the crime shows, got to talking one day and, I love that. And that's really interesting. And it's like, we're kind of talking about this in a way that it's almost like, should I really find this more disturbing than what I do? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, to me, it just doesn't seem that disturbing. And Kelly's like, well, why do you say that? And so then we just delve right into it, right? So, on the surface, Kelly kind of had this, interpretation that I was, pretty put together. And, I'm a nurse practitioner. I have 4 kids, a husband. I've been married almost 10 years now. But then kind of as things unfolded, it was a little more, real and got really raw. So, I guess just to really dive right in, kind of how Kelly and I did, I just started telling him the story. So, I was a 13-year-old girl. I was in 7th grade. Like I said, I had a pretty good life. But my parents decided things weren't going the way that they had planned. They wanted to split up. And me and my younger sister, I just have one younger sister, we were honestly kind of on board with that plan. And I guess there was just something about our life, something about our family that was understood. We didn't talk about it that much, but it was like, that was just kind of understood that that's what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So we were essentially kind of okay with it, per se. We moved into my mom's brother's house. My dad stayed in our house that we lived in. We kind of continued on through school, and there wasn't really any giant red flags with that situation specifically. And then at the time, I was actually rodeoing. So Kelly and I's mutual friend Sky, her and I rodeoed together, and so I had won a bunch of awards that year. So MBHA is the Barrel Racing Association in East Texas. I don't know if that's other places too, but so I was supposed to attend this award show. Mm-hmm. My mom had planned for my dad to pick me up that morning, and we were going to go to the award show and do all of that, and he didn't show. So it was kind of interesting. Okay, well, that's weird. My grandmother, my mom's mom, lived maybe a mile from our house, which was obviously where my dad was living at the time. She said, let's just swing by, and then we'll see if he's home or what's going on. If not, I'll just take you.
So he was supposed to pick you up that morning. So what
Yes.
time is it now? at that time?
Jeez. Maybe 9 or 10 in the morning.
Okay,
That's
so-
a wild guess because I
Okay.
really don't remember very
okay.
well. And so that's what we did. We lived on a lake called Circular Lake, and so it was a very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. So, you know, my grandmother was right around the corner. Made a stop there, went on to our house, and I got out of the car. My mom and my sister stayed in the car. I'm just going to go in and check and see what the heck is going on. So I knock on the door. Nobody answers the door. This is my house. I'm just going to go in, see what's going on. I go in. Everything's pretty, you know, it's settled. There's no major issues. So I'm kind of like knocking on the next wall. Hello, you know, is anybody home? Still no answer. Well, then all the way to the back of the house, there's the master bedroom, and then the master bathroom feeds off to the left. So I get to the master bedroom and knock on the wall again, and all I can hear is running water. So I'm like, that's interesting. He's in the shower. You know, that's where my mind was going. He's in the shower. So I come through the bedroom, come around the wall, and I can see the farthest wall of the master bathroom at that point. And it's just splattered with blood.
Holy smoke.
So, you know, it's weird because that sounds like such an unreal thing, you know, like that's not something that you're going to see, you know, in real life. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, obviously he cut himself shaving, you know, and so I'm going through all these different things as, you know, I'm kind of in this situation. And then I just kind of realize, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a shotgun does. It's close range to an animal.
Yeah.
But the next few steps kind of reveal what that does to a human. And so, so I remember what shoes I was wearing that day because I was running so fast, you know, that I could, that's just what I remembered.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, so kind of like we talked about earlier, you know, having a now 14-year-old daughter today in a totally normal environment for the most part, you know, everybody has their stuff, but just kind of taking myself back to that and wrapping my head around how I possibly could have processed that is kind of wild.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then you kind of go, you know, maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 years later, my younger sister was in a horrific car accident. There was 6 kids. She shattered both of her femurs. We didn't know if she'd ever walk again. 3 of those kids died in the accident. So that was a pretty big thing. And so, you know, my mom, she's always been a really great mom. But I don't know if you've ever had to put your phone on like a battery save mode, and so all the applications shut down except for the very essential things that you have to have. That's kind of the mode that my mom went into through those years. So,
How incredible. How incredible. So you have a younger sister.
I do.
You had a younger sister at the time. So when you discovered this, you ran back outside, obviously.
Yes. So going back to that, as I'm reaching the door, my sister's there, and she's coming inside, very natural, and I kind of scoop her up and kind of threw her back out onto the porch, and I'm, you know, absolutely not, you can't go in there. And then at that point, I'm just screaming the words of what has happened, you know, dad has killed himself, and I'm saying that over and over, and my sister, you know, she would have been 10 at the time, so, and my mom's, like, looking at us out of the windshield, like, what is going on? Like, what are you guys doing, you know? And she gets out, and then it kind of, you know, all comes to a head there. We went back to my grandmother's house, and my grandmother says, you know, I knew this was going to happen.
New.
I knew. it's like, why didn't you tell anyone?
Yeah.
But maybe she did. Who knows?
How long had they been divorced?
It wasn't even official yet. Yeah, wasn't even official yet. So.
And then you were going to see him because he was going to take you to this.
Because he was going to take me. He was supposed to pick me up, and then didn't show, which was very abnormal. I mean, that's not the person he was. To just not show.
What kind of relationship did you have with him? Was he?
It was good, So now, in the present day, I don't have any real feelings about him as a person in general. So it's like kind of you have a good mix of good memories, because that's mostly what we remember when we lose somebody, right? And then a mix of, just that being bad. Just bad, negative emotions. And so now it just kind of seems like it's balanced itself out, and I don't really feel one way or another about that. And it's been so long now, too, that, it's just here nor there, really. But I would say we had a good relationship. We did a lot of things together. We built deer stands. We would go hunt hogs on foot, in the woods and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, the good things I remember were really good.
How has this changed how you're raising your kids these days? We kind of talked about that before the show a little bit. How has that impacted? You have, tell us the ages of your children.
So I have 8, 9, 14, and 15. My oldest is my step, but he's been in my life since he was 5. So we've been together for a really long time. And, I don't know. It's interesting because going through some really hard, traumatic things, it's difficult at times to get lost in, their problems and their tribulations not being real problems. Me really treating their problems like they're real problems, because of course they are, and even now, obviously I have normal, real life problems, that come up. And so I think that's one of the big things. It's just learning how to, teach them that there's a way to manage issues. There's a way to manage problems and cope with them, and, and me not to treat them like they're minute, because they're not life, end of life types of things. So, but I mean, I think I'm learning to be more gentle as I get, as just through parenting,
And it's probably hard too, because it's all about perspective, and
it is.
Our kids, I want to say coddled them to a certain degree, and not that we want to expose them to anything like that, but
right.
If you take away some of these valuable lessons, you want them to work through some of their problems so that they can get good at working through problems, because you're going to have problems as long as you're alive.
Absolutely.
There's going to be things come up, but
Absolutely.
if you kind of rob that, then it kind of cripples them from being, mature and handling things as an adult in a proper way.
Yeah, for sure. And, just teaching them that whatever the situation is, no matter how extreme it is, that if you can change the way that you think about the situation, you can change the way that you act about a situation. And that will determine how happy you are, ultimately, I think.
So can we dive into something else? You are a critical care nurse.
Yes.
Man, you're made for that. It sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah. It's been helpful. It's been helpful to be.
Has led you to that a little bit. Your circumstances when you were younger? Is maybe
yes, in more than one way.
Okay.
In more than one way. So when this accident with my sister happened, I was actually doing prerequisites at the time for nursing school, and seeing the nurses with my sister and the just being in that environment altogether as she was going through that, and how much of a difference it made in how successful she was going to be as a human, being able to walk and things like that, how dependent their care was on that, that checked the box for me. So that's when I was like, yeah, I'm on the right path, and then just having developed the, I guess, mental stamina to kind of experience things, because in critical care you experience things that the outside world doesn't even know happens in the ICU. And I do think it takes, some type of mental grit to be able to withstand what that does to a person emotionally, whether it be the nurse or the family or the patient or whatever, and be able to also be caring and compassionate. And it's a really hard balance. And I started out in trauma. So it was an excellent place to start. Don't just start out in trauma and
Man, like I
carry
said,
on
you're
the trend.
made
Yeah.
for this because think about it. You don't react to probably a lot. There's probably not a lot your kids can say or your husband says to you that you just even react to at this point.
That is so true. It's so
Nothing
true.
surprises you.
Yeah, that's so true.
probably.
And the things that I am surprised by, they're like, that is what rocks your boat, And yeah, definitely.
So before we started the show, we were talking about a little bit about your background, the fact that you're a nurse. And tell us about when COVID broke out. What did you do?
Yeah, so I guess it was probably it was actually right before Easter. And, we had kind of been talking about whether or not the situation in New York was something that I should participate in. I was kind of in this weird limbo situation too, where I was a nurse practitioner already, but I was in between credentialing at two different hospitals. So I had kind of a weird period there where it was like, what am I going to do? I can either do like contract nursing while I'm waiting, or we can do this. The money was really good too. I mean, I'm not going to lie, they definitely did pay us to go do that. And I think that was warranted by what I experienced there. But yeah, it was, I think maybe the day after Easter actually. And I decided that I was going to pack my stuff up and go to New York. So I left and was there for 2 months, and the kids, for the most part, completely understood what the assignment was, what was going on. I mean, the news was very, clear.
Graphic,
About
clear,
that.
everything. Now, at that time, COVID, has it just broke out? Because there was still a lot of unanswered,
Yes.
lots of questions about COVID at the time.
Yeah, there was still many, many questions. And when I got there,
So you were one of the first on the front line for that in New York.
Yes.
It wasn't later. It was like in the beginning.
Yes, so that was
Wow.
in the spring. In the spring.
You're
of
not scared of much then. Think about that.
I don't know.
That's
I feel like I
pretty
am, but I
scary.
think I am very fearful of a lot of things, but that alone is kind of what makes me want to tackle those specific things, because if I can overcome the things that scare me, I can really do anything,
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of an exposure therapy.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
expose
yeah.
yourself to the things that seem traumatic to most people, then what else can bother
Yeah,
you?
and I feel like other people can really wow, you went and did that. And
So what
saw
part
that
of New
movie.
York was this that you went to?
I was in downtown Manhattan.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
So was this a
Downtown
hospital, or
Manhattan.
did they have
Yes.
something
I
set
don't
up?
know if you're familiar with Bellevue. It's actually a very it's a historical site per se. It was actually a mental hospital when it first opened. It's in a lot of movies and even some of the hospital TV shows now. But it's a very famous hospital there in Manhattan. So that's where I was, and there were some, you never really knew where you were going to be. You may be put in a suit and told that you have to stay in that suit for 4 hours unless your bladder is about to explode, and you were taking care of like a department full of people. So they were like in a room, and you were just in a suit in that room until
Any special
came
mask?
out. Yeah, like a full hazmat suit.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that it was hot. It was really miserable.
Did you get all of the vaccines?
No, I have had the first shot, and then I had a booster, and then I got sick with COVID after that and haven't gotten another one. So that's where I am with it. I'm not sure about that. I don't really know how I feel about that in general.
There's
I
so
don't
much
know.
misinformation. You really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we still don't know how to treat it. So
Probably if you have comorbidities, then probably the vaccine is a good thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah. I mean, there's still no.
Limited exposure.
Yeah, I think that's the best method. But yeah, New York was a very interesting experience.
Was it just like the media painted it to be? Lots of people.
It was worse
It
than
was
that.
worse than the media
Yeah,
was
it was
painting it
worse
to
than
be.
that. In the hotel that I was living in, we actually had other nurses that were working at hospitals in other parts of New York City, and they were working in hospitals where those weren't actually even hospitals. They were old hospitals that had been shut down and were totally vacant, and they just kind of makeshift, and there were insects, they would, bag bodies and have them stacked and tagged, and people, of cultural, like different cultures would come in and try and steal bodies for their own cultural reasons, Not everyone, certain cultures do different things with bodies. New York is a very cultural city. So there was some theft of bodies taking place.
Serious?
Yeah, it was really wild.
Seeing all that,
Who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
Seeing all that, did that make you call home and tell your husband and kids how bad it was? Were you worried about it?
I did some more than anything. It was just I'm ready for this to be over. I'm really ready for this to be over. We had a mirror in our room, and at the very beginning of the 2 months, I had 60 days written on there, and every day I would expo marker down the days until I came home. So, I had one specific gentleman, and he was in a room with a lot of other people, and he wasn't doing well, and he had a big box of Welch's gummies, like the Sam's Club size Welch's gummies. So he would put all of his stuff in that box so he didn't lose it in his bed. And we would print out these stickers. They were medication labels, but we'd print out these blank stickers, and the nurses that would come on every morning and write some encouraging thing on the sticker, and we would stick it on the side of his box. So there was one day I was able to kind of get my phone in a sack, like a plastic baggie, and take pictures of his box just for keepsake. It was a really cool thing. And came back the next day, and he was gone.
Oh, wow.
And that was normal. That was normal. It was normal to wonder if your people that you've been taking care of were going to be there the next day.
I may not should be asking this, but I'm going to. Lots of people died, obviously, of COVID.
Yeah.
Why? Was it the ventilators? Was it the fact? Right now, people are not even treating for COVID. When you catch it, you just kind of quarantine and you're okay. Why did so many people die in the beginning of this?
I think that, I've seen the disease take over someone's body through multi-organ failure in a situation that's controlled. In a situation where we have all the supplies, we have the medications we need to give them, we have the machines, we have the staff, we have all of that. And you can't change it. Once that disease really takes over, it's very rare when someone reaches a certain point that you're able to turn them around, in my experience and what I've seen. But New York was so bad because you had that same exact situation, and different variants I felt were more aggressive, and you didn't have any of those resources. You didn't have enough staff. You didn't have enough medicine. You didn't have enough, anything. And
when you've got so many people living in a small area that it's...
And everyone's so horrified of seeking care that they waited until they were half dead anyways. So,
COVID affected people so differently. I don't know. When COVID obviously broke out in Tyler, some of the first cases in Tyler were where we lived.
Right. Yeah.
And not knowing it, my husband actually had it, and we didn't know it. We had sent him to the doctor twice, and the doctor would say, your lungs are too clear. You don't have COVID.
Yeah.
Well, we found out later both of us had it.
Yeah, and there's definitely a difference between having COVID and having COVID pneumonia.
Okay.
And that's something that we've kind of had to just work throughout the years now, that those are two different things. Someone can be infected with COVID, just like someone can have a sinus infection that comes from a bacteria, but it can get much worse and manifest in terms of, pneumonia and things like that. So it was definitely the people who had developed COVID pneumonia that were deteriorating so quickly, and then they would develop multi-organ failure just from the inflammatory response that they had. So then the kidneys would go, then the liver would go, and you just had like profound shock states that were they weren't able to recover from that.
You know, and it's a big wake up call, I think, for all of us. That, I mean, you never want to catch anything, but at least be as healthy as you can going into something like that. I mean, because a lot of these people, the main bulk of it, I think, were people with comorbidities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really something that everybody's really frustrated with. Why are we focusing so much on vaccinating people when we know that the people this is affecting the most are the people who are overweight, have diabetes, have hypertension, and that was never really addressed. Like, of course, that's going to take time to turn something like that around, but so is creating vaccine. But it's just one of those things that hasn't really been touched on yet, but hopefully we get there.
So in the 2 months that you were in New York, did you catch COVID at all?
Not that I know
Not
of.
that you know of. So you came back home, and then that's when you had it after being vaccinated.
Yeah, it was the Christmas. It was that following Christmas. Yep. And then the following Christmas after that, too.
Okay, yeah.
That's all
So
that
many people have
happened.
had it multiple times at this point. Do you think maybe it's weakened each time, that it's...
I think we've achieved what they called herd immunity. I think more people just do have some degree of immunity to it. Now, most of the people that I'm seeing in the hospitals are people who have some autoimmune disorder or, some type of myeloma or cancer or something like that. They're immunosuppressed already. So I think most people who have a good, hardy immune system are doing okay.
Are you seeing much COVID now in the hospitals?
Not much. I work in Dallas some, not so much these days, but from any time I've gone up there, it's not too bad. I mean, we have like little tiny waves, but again, it's just those people. So, I had someone ask me the other day, or I think it was maybe something somebody posted online, and, it's like, what is your motivation for, fitness or your health or whatever? And my biggest one lately has been, like, I just want to live a really long time with my kids. Like, as long as I can live and do all the things, that's really what I want to do.
Well, yeah, and you're involved in a lot more than just training with me. She also plays soccer, indoor soccer.
Yeah, I play indoor soccer. I play for a co-ed league, and then Wade's really mad at me because I joined a women's team the other night too. So our entire Sundays are playing
And then her
soccer
kids
now.
are on club soccer
My
teams,
kids,
so she's
yeah.
traveling all over the place.
Oh,
and
my.
Yeah, my
He's
schedule's
busy.
full.
I
Yeah.
bet the kids love watching you play soccer. That's
They
my
do.
mom out there.
They yell at me. Yeah, I get
That's
my
so cool.
I get my dose of the yelling. So, yeah, it's good. It's so much fun though. People probably think that's over the top, maybe. I turned 33 yesterday, and I get that a lot. Like, a lot of people, will say things like, well, it's going to catch up with you one day. Well, I don't think so. I mean, when it does, it does.
Exactly.
And you'll know it. I mean, one great thing that I've loved about this being my, health and fitness being my job is that it allowed me to get out there and participate with my kids.
Yeah.
Not just sit in the stands, but to get out there and throw the football with my son or kick a soccer ball with my daughter, that you're actually out there while you see all the other parents sitting in the stands. So I love that part of it.
Yeah, that's big. It's big.
We talked about it too. We'll carry our own food with us to certain things, and people will go, "Oh, there they come!
With
We
their
see
rice
they've got their
cakes.
cooler, and
Yeah.
they're not going to eat with us." And
Eating their cold turkey in their container.
Oh, my goodness. I've got some girls that work here, and that's what they do. They come and they bring their own food, and they've got rice cakes.
Yeah,
and
and
they've
that
got
takes a
turkey,
lot of
and
time.
they-
That takes a lot of
all
time.
their food are laid out.
It's a lot of planning. So, yeah, I mean, I really, when I see those people out, I think that took a lot of time. That took a lot of time and preparation. Like, they mean it. They mean it.
because the world is not set up
No.
to be healthy.
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, this has been fascinating talking to you.
Thanks.
It's been amazing.
When Kelly asked me about it, I kind of like stuttered for a minute because I'm like, I can't possibly figure out why Kelly finds this interesting. But I mean, I guess it is.
It is
I guess,
extremely
yeah.
interesting. But you know what? It seems like you are where you are today because of
Yeah.
what you've been through.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to that whole thinking. If I can master the way that I think about something, then the action part is really easy. Whether that be, I had this horrible thing happen whenever I was younger, but I still want to, be a nurse practitioner when I get older. Well, The only thing in between there that really changes the trajectory is how I think about that. I mean, do I think that that's achievable? Then I can probably do it. Do I not think that's achievable? I probably won't be able to do it. So, I don't know. At first I thought of Karate Kid whenever I thought about this, like this specific way of thinking about things. But then it really made me think of Matilda, which is my very favorite movie from whenever I was younger. And, Matilda, until she figured out how to really think about things and focus and put her mind to something, then after that she could do anything she wanted to do. But she had to, focus in and master her little power.
We mentioned a little bit last week about locus of control, and that's what I find in all of you guys is that if you've had something like that in your life and you've overcome it, it's because you have a strong internal locus of control. You take responsibility, you accept reality, you're always striving to be better, and if something happens and you fail, then it's a great way to learn. It's a lesson, not like just, it doesn't crush you. We let situations not define us, but refine us.
Right.
It makes us better for having gone through it. Not that we would ever wish for someone to go through it, but however, now that we're on the other side, it makes you so much more. And it's like putting equity into yourself.
Exactly. I mean, people doing the fitness thing, people ask me all the time, well, how's your fitness journey going? Like, what are your goals? And I'm like, I truly have no idea, just really to constantly be better. And the fact of the matter is that I will never be happy. Let me say that. I will never really be, I'll never really be where I want to be. But that doesn't mean that I'm not happy with where I am. I mean, I think it's just it's a process, and that's the part that you have to be happy with, But I probably won't ever be what I really have in mind. Because I don't really know what I have in mind, just to be better.
There's a Greek word for that, because I've thought, like, I'm content, but I don't want that to sound apathetic.
Yeah.
But so there's a Greek word called eudaimonia, and it's a life of striving, and that you get joy from overcoming things that are difficult. That's where you get your self-esteem. And
that's exactly
I think that's kind of
exactly it.
That's the word for it.
Yeah, because I would not say that I'm discontent necessarily. I just doing the things. So.
What advice would you give somebody right now that has been through a traumatic experience like you have? From the 13-year-old to 33-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to not to be what they call toxic positivity, because sometimes I feel like that's what I am. That's a new term if you haven't heard it. Because I do feel like I do put off that vibe every now and then. But I think the big thing is to just find the little lights that you do have, whether those be, a sibling, a distant relative, someone who has some connections in a college, someone who was your soccer coach when you were young, just the little lights, the little positive lights, and let them kind of take you there. Because I don't think that a 13-year-old girl really has the capability to do that alone. I think that I probably am missing 1,000 pieces of the puzzle that got me to where I am, but I know I didn't do it by myself.
Did you go to therapy right after that happened?
I did, but I don't know that I got anything from that. I don't know. It was brief. It was brief, and I don't know how much that I got from it. I was put on antidepressants and whatnot for quite some time, but I truly think it made things worse. I think more than anything, I probably just needed some therapy sessions, and I feel like I got them eventually, along the way, just with different people that I met and knew what I had been through. But I think that's the big thing, is don't forget about the people who do still care, because people obviously still care and have interest in your well-being just because something horrible happened, So, yeah, and just really, if you can learn to master your thoughts, you self-discipline and things of that nature, the actions are really, really easy.
I love that. Master your thoughts and the actions are very,
Really,
very
really easy.
easy.
Yeah.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming
Welcome.
on today.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thanks for
for
having me.
so much.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.